Well, hey there. Thank you for tuning right in. You are here. We are here. It's happening right now. It's the continuation of the On Air Brands MasterClass. I don't know why I'm talking like this. It's the excitement and or the coffee and or it's May. Who knows? Who cares? But we are here. Josh Carey, Eric Cabral.
Hello.
What are you doing?
What's going on, folks? Please, 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 I beg and also want and need you to help us here and share this video. It's live and it's going to be streaming to everyone. We want it to spread like wildfire, so please share it as you watch it. Start a watch party. Do what you need to do, and we'll pay you back by giving you amazing content. It's all coming.
In dividends. So you are tuned right into this episode of our ongoing masterclass where we cover the 4 C's for you. It's all about activating your audience. How do you get their attention? How do you get them to care? And how do you grow their interest in your offer? We've packaged that deal with which really is the overriding theme and goal for the entrepreneur, right? Doing all that for your audience, getting them to care, getting them to see what you're doing, and then getting them to show interest in what you are offering. Today, we're going down the path of the 4 C's. And today, as you see, is all about community. We have an incredible special guest to help us unravel everything about community, which is you're in the right place if you want to build, start, grow, nurture a thriving community in various ways. And we have handpicked the most perfect guest, right, Eric? It's Ever Gonzales. You either know that name or you do not know that name. If you know that name, you're nodding along and saying, yes, Ever Gonzales is going to be on this show. Yes, he is.
The one and only.
Yes, if you do not yet know Ever, you're in for a good time, wouldn't you say?
100%. Just quick little story. Josh has been mentioning Ever to me for a long time, and so I knew of his name, I knew of his brand, and when I finally had an opportunity to meet him, I also take the opportunity to rib Josh when I can, and I was like, hey, let me embarrass you for a second and tell Ever how you have a man crush on him, and he started blushing, and then 5 minutes into it, I was like, dude, I have a man crush. I get it now. The dude's amazing. He's doing so many wonderful, cool things, so inspirational. So yeah, I'm pumped. I'm pumped to have him here, and sharing and providing tons of value to our audience on how to build a community.
Well, the reason we want Ever in on this conversation for you tuning in is because he has achieved the result that we want to continue to teach, building and nurturing a thriving community. He is the founder of Outlier HQ. And along with that, he has built the event Outlier Podcast Festival. Guys, I'm on the air right now. Yeah.
I gave it.
It's live, brother.
It is live.
It should be like Jimmy Fallon's Tonight Show and just say Masterclass Community. Have the kids do that next time.
Community. Why not?
Community. Yeah. Have them write community.
Yeah. Yeah. Does it get any better than that? This is really what it's about. I'll look closely what these things down here are. I'm pretty sure it's the family. Community. Perfect. So we're going to have a really strong dialogue to help you figure out wherever you are in the process, building, growing, nurturing a community, and Ever's certainly the one.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing I wanted to, before we bring Ever on, I wanted to highlight an amazing opportunity that we've created that is proof. There's pudding. There's all the stuff that people love. It's this thing that we just launched called PodMax Global. So if you know and love PodMax as the live event, we created a virtual version of it. And the coolest thing about it is, spoiler alert, Ever is now joining us at this event. And you as a guest coming through PodMax allows you to do what we're doing right now, is build a community by tapping into others, tapping into other people's tribes. So when you get through the PodMax Global event, you'll have an opportunity as a guest to speak on other people's podcasts, be a guest, be interviewed, tell your story. And the cool thing about it is now you may not have a tribe or community, or it's not as large as you imagine or want it to be yet, then now you can go to Ever's, you can go to Josh's, you can go to all these folks that are going to be a part of this event and just share and start to sort of community hack your way through building. And we're here to help you with that. So check us out at podmax.co, and you'll get more info there.
You bring up an interesting point that the entrepreneur tuning in who wants to build, start, grow, nurture their own community also can, and should benefit from flipping that, as you said, becoming part of other communities, the vast importance of that.
100%.
Yeah.
So without further ado, should we bring the man, the myth?
We should.
Yeah.
We should. And as you know, this is a interactive session. So please, as we're going on and you have thoughts, questions, ideas, or concerns, put them in that chat box and we address them in real time, and certainly at the end. Yeah.
As we bring Ever on, I wanted to highlight, folks, that this is number 2. This is number 2 of 4 that we're going to discuss, and you could see here on the screen, we're focusing on community and how to build a community. But last week we talked about clarity and clarifying your message and how to be clear on that so that people can resonate with you and want to do business with you. Community, we're going to get into how to engage, how to build, how to provide love and support. The next week, we're going to be talking about connecting the dots. How do you connect all of these things that you're building to start generating income, business, relationships? Who can you partner with? Which companies are complementary to what you do, so that you can fuse together, and then that leads to collaboration, because now you're finding partners and you're finding people that now share the same mindset, the same goals, and can all sort of, help each other during these times especially. So without further ado, we're going to start it up.
Right on cue. Hey. Hello, Jacob in the background, responsible for all this nonsense. Ever Gonzales, what's doing, my man?
Excited to be here. You guys are 2 of my new favorite people, so thank you for bringing me on. This is gonna be amazing.
You know what? If we had the sound effects like we do in studio, like that's what I would press right now.
Nice, very nice, dude. You guys have built something cool, and I'm excited to be a part of it. I love the graphics. I love the team behind you guys, and so awesome. This is truly an honor. So thank you.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Here. It's really great to continue to connect with you because, as you know, I came across Ever probably a year ago. I saw an announcement for one of his in-person podcast events, the Outlier Podcast Festival, looking for speakers. I was like, I want to be a speaker there. So I applied. I didn't really know Ever at that point. He certainly didn't know me. I put a note out and submitted. Apparently he liked something about it. I got an email. Eric, I'll never forget this. I received an email from that submission back from Ever. When I received the email back from him acknowledging that he wants to get on a phone call with me and he likes what my submission was and let's take the next step. It was when we were at Mid-Atlantic Conference. I remember that. And I was checking email and I was like, oh my God, I got a response from my submission here. So I was excited to start that process of entering his community. And we just sort of hit it off from there and we kept in touch. We had the pleasure of meeting in person a couple of months ago, which was probably one of the last times we were all face to face with anybody who isn't an immediate family. So it's really cool. And then Eric came into the mix, and like he said about my man crush, there are just some people that it's required. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and he's suave. It helps too. He's got some swaggy suave.
And it helps that the 2 of you are on there, and you guys get along so well, and it feels like home, really, like buddies from high school that you're reuniting with after a long time.
Yeah, wow. We feel the same way. And just quick flashback to Ever's brand and the community he's built. He was ever so gracious, just meeting us live in the flesh for the first time, and was like, hey man, we're about to go have a private dinner, me and my crew. Why don't you come along? And there was like a dozen of amazing people. And Josh and I were able to, meet so many and hear these stories and start sharing. And now we're working with some of those people. So that just goes to show, the abundance mindset that you come from as well. So we appreciate you bringing us into your fold. So we just want to give back and keep sharing.
I appreciate it. And I'm sure we're going to be talking about this a little bit as well, but you guys brought value into my community as well. And so it's, it helps both of us, right? Having you guys at that dinner just made it that much better for everybody involved. And so, we build value, we help one another. And that's what I love about community and what we're trying to build here together.
We are going to talk about this dinner we keep referencing. It was at the Podfest conference in March in Florida. It was a great big event, few thousand people there. From my point of view, and we will dissect, and it's so relevant for community from my point of view, how it happened, this dinner that were about 12 or 14 of us. It was almost like the Last Supper, right? Ever's in the middle there. Man crush alert, right? It's like, okay, great. Now he's Jesus. We get it, Josh. No, but really, we were at this like long table and just a really great vibe. But from my point of view, about an hour prior to that, me and Eric had absolutely no plans for dinner. We were at this like networking cocktail event. Ever was there. We started talking, and he's like, out of the blue, he's like, hey, you want to come to dinner with us? And I was like, yeah, sure. I didn't know what was going to happen. And then it just started seeming like, Ever, as we were walking out, you were just sort of like gathering people, almost like the Wizard of Oz. Every time we walked down the yellow brick road, more people were just joining us. And I'm like, wait, now how are we at this? I didn't even know. So it's interesting. How was it planned? Did it happen organically? That's the power of community.
Yeah, well, to answer that question, it was not planned that way, but we've done so many of these before that, I'm in there like, yes, you, let's do this. And not that we were excluding anybody, but that particular night and that particular vibe, it took a special type of individual and person to kind of be able to bring in so that they vibe with everybody in the group.
So do you, in that situation, which again is applicable to the conversation of building your community in any sense of the word, is it more that you were quote unquote bringing people in, or were you just opening up a vibe that people were then attracted to, or is it a little bit of both?
It's a little bit of both. It's a little bit of science and a little bit of art as well, right? Being able to kind of bring in the right people to gel at the same time. That's difficult to do, but having being introduced to you guys and Eric and everybody else, it just kind of works. And sometimes it works great, like it did that night. Other times there's a little bit more work to put behind it, just because certain personalities don't mix with others. And as the community leader, not that I was the leader at that evening, but somebody that's putting this together, you have to be aware of that as well. What works in certain groups and what doesn't, and it could be two different things, two different nights, which is fantastic. But that particular night was amazing.
I have to say that you don't have to be this boisterous, crazy person at the table in order to position yourself as like, hey, I'm the leader. Ever has this very sort of quiet confidence that, even though he says, and he's very modest and humble, that, hey, I wasn't leading that, but he was clearly the head of the table. And the thing is, and everybody sort of we're planets in orbit. And it was, you could feel the vibe that like, this is a community that I want to be a part of. I don't know exactly 100% what or how it all came about, but I get it and I'm vibing with it. And everybody here are at a higher level. And that's what I want to highlight to people. It's building and vibrating at a certain frequency so that people that are ready and also at that same vibration level will come to you just like that, just like we were talking about here, where Ever's literally walking and he's like, and people felt it. We're like, let's go. I mean, because where we were at, don't get me wrong, folks. And that was a big event we were at, that room that we were in. For me to leave that room, I was talking to some really cool people I saw you guys and I was like, wait a second. And I floated over to you guys. I don't want to miss out on that. So it's amazing how you've built that and how you created that, even, by design or not. It's just vibrating at that certain frequency that people will understand without words being spoken.
You're certainly speaking my language, Eric, because I've mentioned this in various forms on our shows, that it is all about the energy you put out is certainly the energy that you wind up attracting. And the phrase that I've started living by was, you don't you don't achieve success, you attract success. And with that, you have to become the person who is capable of attracting the success you desire. So first, before anything arrives, before anything is achieved, you have to put that vibe and energy out by becoming that person who is capable of attracting the success you desire. That's really what it's about for me.
Love it. So
Yeah.
let's get into Ever. So you've built this community. Tell the folks at home a little bit, now where you're at, the size and the vibe and the relationships you've built of this community. And then let's work backwards on like how, step by step for you, it's sort of worked.
Yeah, sure. So I run a media and events company. We've hosted 200 plus events. We have 425 plus episodes on our podcast. So from the very beginning, I wanted to talk to cool people about business, their lifestyles, podcasting. And so it just kind of, and we'll get into this in a bit, but it was kind of a side gig that turned into something that I find truly amazing and something that I really enjoy. But in the beginning, it was just one of those things where I don't know. I wanted to start something new because I sold my first company, and then I had a little bit of time on my hands, and I wanted to keep busy while I figured out what I was going to do with the rest of my life. And so that's where Outlier came about. 6 years in, we've built a community. Sometimes some would say by accident, others say, we've made a lot of mistakes, but the community that we have now, including you guys, right, is something that I'm very, very proud of. And you talked about, you attract and you're at a certain frequency. And I truly believe that I and the wife doesn't always love this, but the things that I don't do because of money. I do it because I'm interested. I'm curious about people. I want to work on cool projects with cool people. And they work most of the time, right? It's something that not only do I enjoy, but we're making a little bit of money off of that as well. If I was out there and I was, a business grad and trying to build a proper business community, it would look a lot different, especially in the beginning, than what it looks like now. And I'm okay with that. Right. It's the vibe. It's the people that I want to be associated with this. And we talked about this the other day. I would rather have 1,000 people in my community that are all in than 25,000, 30,000 that are just kind of like, meh, all right. It just doesn't work that way. Right. I enjoy the dinners and the intimate conferences that we have and everything, and these conversations that we have with people, because it truly is, magic happens when cool people get together. And for whatever reason, and I'm still trying to figure it out, I have some answers, but there's still a lot of things I don't know about how this community came to be. But I truly believe that when cool people get together, ambitious people get together, amazing things happen. And they have happened at our events, off stage, in the hallways, right, in the back room, in the green room. When my power, I think, is being able to bring people together, and then they do the rest. That's it, right? I'm not the best keynote speaker. I don't want to be the best keynote speaker. I'm not the best brand manager, all these other things. But what I truly feel that is my superpower is being able to bring people together in the right place at the right time with the right vibe.
So we noticed you're really the non-traditionalist in the room, because so much of your story, how this started, how it evolved and developed, and how your community came to be, is, some would say, is not really the, like you admitted, the traditional perfect way to do it. You almost found yourself in this scenario. And I just want to point that out, that for the person listening, there's no one specific way for this to happen. So we're going to hear more examples of what Ever did and what he's doing, but realize that that is not the only way. So when it's appropriate, will point out the other side of that coin. So I want to step back for a minute, Ever, and look at the 30,000 foot view of community. Now that you're looking back and you're saying, my goodness, look what I built. Pretty impressive on a lot of different scales here. For the person listening who may have a small community or none at all, what's the real value? What's the purpose? Who is it the most beneficial for?
I would say it's beneficial to the person that is building that community, right? Again, I get to talk to cool people, some of whom I shouldn't even have a audience with, right? These people that I have on my podcast that they shouldn't have even taken my call in the first place, but because I have 400 plus episodes, they take my call, or speakers that I call to invite to come speak. Some of those guys shouldn't even be have time for some of the stuff that I call them about, but it's because of the community and the great experience that they had either on my show, on my stage, or another interaction that we had. And so to me, right, as much as I want to provide value to my community, which I believe that we do, at the end of the day, man, I'm a selfish guy, and this is very beneficial to me specifically. I get to meet with cool people like you guys, work on cool projects that I get to pick and choose. And so at the end of the day, I think the community leader or those people that are putting it together, that's what it's going to benefit at the end. Although it's valuable to everybody involved, but I think that I have received more than people in my community, and it's been amazing. It's been an amazing ride for sure.
It's all about give and take, right? Understanding that you want to offer value to someone with no intention of receiving immediate gratification. So it's like knowing that, the whole, I keep saying, the rising tide lifting all boats, you have to trust in that process. You have to know that this works, and you just have to give it time, know that everything is not short term. I was talking to my wife this morning, and she's getting into different types of business, and she's like, I don't like selling. And then I said, you know what? Selling is only viewed as a terrible thing because there are people who are, number one, they're really bad at it. And number two, they don't believe in the product. And then number three, they're trying to do it too quickly. They're trying to sell you on something within 2 to 5 minutes. It's done over relationships. It's done over time. It's done over fostering and watering that plant and nurturing for who knows how long. There could be someone in your community, someone in your tribe, and this is why you build a community, is that it may take 1 year to 2 years for someone to say, finally, hey, I want to partner with Ever. I want to partner with Josh. I want to do something with you. Everyone sort of makes that decision at their own pace. Right?
And that kind of makes sense to why I consider myself a success right now with our community. The first year and a half, almost 2 years, we weren't selling anything. We truly weren't. We didn't have a product. We didn't really have services. We weren't doing anything. And so I think we built that community because we were giving, adding value. And then, I woke up and I was like, oh shoot, we actually have a little bit of a business here. And then that's when we started to add more high ticket prices to services and products and things like that. But in the beginning, I think it worked. And I stumbled upon this just because I wasn't trying to sell you as soon as you joined my community. I wasn't trying to, get you to sign up for this and that as soon as you walked in. And I think that's why people have stuck around for so long.
I want to echo some of that. It seems like you and I Ever started our shows for very similar reasons. I was in that, hey, I need desperately to remove myself from my current frustrated, angry self and figure something else out. And in that time, I was like, you know what? A podcast feels right. And I know you have a very similar story with how and why you started yours. I just knew that I don't know exactly where it's going to take me, but I trust that it'll take me somewhere great. And along the way, I'm just going to keep my eyes open for opportunity, which is something you still need and should be doing every step of the way, having a sense of what you want, what your goals are, and look for it actively. But I just did the podcast and I didn't have a product or service out of the gate outside of the podcast, which is really significant in many ways itself. But I said, you know what? I'm just going to do this, interview great people. And my goodness, I'm gathering these contacts, these relationships, and I trust that eventually, if I have 20, 30, 50, 80, 100 shows, at some point, it's going to have an impact, and then things are going to start happening. So I think patience and the ability to be slow and steady, but deliberate and look for opportunities is also part of it.
Yeah, one of the mistakes that I see people make, especially right away, and because of the position that we're in with the festivals and the podcast that we talked to a lot of different people come to us and say, help me start my podcast. By the way, how can I get a sponsor day one? How can I be booked on different shows, day two? It's too much too soon, right? You got to build something first in order for that to kind of come to you. Again, it happens to other people every once in a while, but for the norm, it doesn't happen that way. You have to put in the time, the effort to build that before you start to see some of the benefits of it.
Yeah, when we were at Podfest, I forgot I forgot the guy from Libsyn had a presentation, and he said exactly to what you were saying. He put a picture of a baby with like a logo on his head, and he's like, "That is your podcast trying to get sponsorships too quickly. It's a baby. Why are you already branding it, putting a tattoo on it? Give it time, let it marinate, let the people come." I have a quick story that I wanted to share that I haven't really told often. But same thing as you guys, I started my podcast with no intention of monetizing or selling something. It was just truly just like, let me get this out there. Let me start sharing my story and see what happens. Within 6 months, it was definitely less than a year, I was in Miami at a conference. And someone literally came up to me. This is no joke, guys. And I was still new at it. You're Eric Cabral. And I'm like, yeah, have we met? And she's like, I am a fan of your show. I listened to this guy, and now he's my coach. Like the guy I interviewed, she hired. Wow. And it was amazing. And the thing is, what was cool about it was I was with my tribe. We were traveling, like, I don't know, there was probably 10 deep, and they showed up to dinner. I texted them, said, come to dinner. And they hung out with all of us, and they became part of us. And it was so cool and surreal to be like, I'm not even anywhere near home right now. But the podcast was so powerful that it's reaching out states and beyond. And I just wanted, that's when it hit me like, holy crap, the podcast is so powerful. And we're not necessarily, we're talking podcasting here. There are other platforms and other ways that you can reach out. But right now, there's so much evidence and so many stories that prove that if you give it time and you trust in that process, wow, you can really leverage that, huh?
Absolutely.
To build a community.
So Ever, you had your podcast the first year and a half. Then what was the next iteration of you looking and saying, my goodness, there's a community here? What form was that step?
Yeah, I'll back up even a little bit. And I don't know if you guys know this part of the story either. My background's in logistics, right? So I like putting things together, organizing, making sure everything happens, pulling the strings behind the scenes. The first 100 episodes or so of my own podcast, I had two professional podcasters host my show because I wanted to put other people, right, give other people a platform. And so I would bring in the people, I would still chit chat with them and build connections. But when it was time to record, I had my two other hosts take turns interviewing for the first 100 episodes, just because, again, I wanted to be behind the scenes. And it grew, and it was great. And then about the 100 mark, I was like, you know what? It's time for me to kind of step up a little bit and take ownership of this and kind of make it happen. And it exploded from there. Not that the other two were bad or anything. It has to be yours. It has to be your baby, right? In order for it to grow. And so once that happened, it took off, and I was like, I think we have something special here. Let's do something else. So we opened up a co-working space here in Southern Utah. Small co-working space, right? We invited entrepreneurs to kind of come, and they can rent desks, offices, all that stuff in our place. And we would have cool people coming in all the time, great conversations. So from the podcast to the co-working space, we're like, look at all these cool people. Let's have events. And so we hosted a few different events at the co-working space. From that success, we decided to move out of our co-working space and have events in our local theaters and community outside of our space. And then we went national, right? We started hosting events in LA, Austin, Denver, Salt Lake City. And it was just step by step. And again, it wasn't a master plan. It wasn't something like, we're starting here, I want to end here. I was just like, oh, hey, let's do that too. And there were some crazy ideas too that didn't pan out, that just because we didn't have a plan. We wanted to buy a old tour bus and call it the startup bus and go from city to city, attracting entrepreneurs to kind of do their thing and have some sort of contest. It didn't work out, which was fine, but we had a great time doing all of this. And so from the lessons that I learned early on, to try to truly figuring out what I want Outlier to become, it's been a journey for sure.
I love that. Was there a podcast studio on the bus?
There was going to be, yeah. It would have been perfect, right? Plenty of space for people to come and start their startups and have some mentors in there as well, awesome. And then have them interviewed in the back of the bus.
How do you determine the difference between so once somebody has their community and the first few people are showing interest and commenting and messaging and showing up and trying to connect, and that's the like little smoke that's starting the big fire of your community, how do you determine, should I give them what they want, or do I give them what they need, or do I give them what I want? How do you even begin to say, okay, what are we doing here? What do you want? Can I take your order? I mean, it can go bad, right?
That is a great question. And that is one that I still struggle with to this day. But what we've done in the past is, everybody says, who's your avatar? Build products, services, do what they want, that avatar. And we tried that and it worked. It was fine, right? Others do it much better. What has worked for us, me specifically, is I do what I want, and work on projects that I am passionate about. And then I attract those people, come to us because of what we're excited about. And it works. And so, yeah, listening to our community, we do try to give them what they need. But for the most part, this is a vanity project, it feels like sometimes, because I'm doing what I want. And then if you're into it, let's rock and roll. If not, that's okay. There are other communities that you can join. So yeah, to this day, that's something that I struggle with. Maybe not struggle with, but certainly think about it all the time. I have this community now. What do they want? What do they need? And we try to put stuff in front of them. But for the most part, I'm doing something that I am truly excited about as an entrepreneur and as a podcaster. And it's working, right? I want cool, intimate events, right? We can have larger events. I don't have as much fun at these larger events. I like intimate events. So we cap our audience, our attendance, to about 200 individuals in these different cities, because we like it small. We like it rock and roll, right? We just want it fast and loose, and it works, and it's awesome. We don't have fancy lights on our stage. We don't have the pyrotechnics, the amazing lighting, all that stuff. We just have a stage, a couple stools, and my Outlier flag in the background, and it's the content from stage, and it's the connections that people make, again, in the hallways or outside of the venue that truly set us apart. But yeah, to get back to your question, it's a hit and miss. We go back and forth. But what has worked the best for us is when I'm working on something that I am passionate about, and those are the people that we attract.
Am I hearing this part correctly? It sounds like in a similar parallel to my previous iteration of my life here, where I was out seeking the approval of everybody, trying to gain their acceptance and approval, didn't work, versus now I'm who I am. I put out what feels right, what makes the most sense. And that inadvertently or directly attracts the right people. In the same way, you're saying, sure, you could be considerate to what the people who are showing up really want, but it's really about you coming to the table with what you want to offer, what you feel most comfortable, and then you'll attract the right, perfect people.
I think so. And, it's funny because between the three of us, we have enough business knowledge to be able to do this and do this right, I believe, right? Marking off the right steps to building a community or building a company. But Outlier could be bigger and more successful and all that good stuff if I took the heart and soul out of it, I believe, right? Because I'd be able to sell higher ticket prices to these bigger events. But so what? Right. At the end of the day, it's not something that I'm passionate about, and I would lose interest really quickly, and I would be off to my next project. So what keeps me interested and keeps Outlier with this heart and soul and this vibe that it has that people continue to talk about it and be passionate about, it's because it's what we want to do as a collective now, right? In the beginning, it was just me. Now I'm attracting these freaks, right? These ambassadors that want to be part of this whole thing. And now as a community, as a group, now we're going out together and building this together. It's not just Ever, it's this core group of ambassadors that I've been able to build, and not even build. They've come in and have attached themselves to us, and now as a group we go out and we do what we want, how we want.
I want to highlight to everyone who's listening and watching that Ever is the prime example of the person that's always coming and asking or thinking that, how do I tell my story and have it resonate with people? You don't want to craft something that's not genuine or authentic to your story. Ever put himself out there. At first, like he said, want to highlight that he was trying to figure out what do they need. And then eventually he was like, I'm just going to do my thing and tell my story and have people come. And it worked. It worked over time. So just highlighting that to you folks, that it's not about trying to hit the mark right on the target as soon as you throw that dart. It's always going to be moving. You'll end up, being the dog chasing your own tail if you're always trying to adapt and always figure out exactly what everybody wants. Put out your truest story and trust us, it will come. I just wanted to highlight the community here. Our man Jake here asked a question regarding how do you identify those people and then eventually connect with them? What would you say to that, Ever?
Yeah, let me read this again.
How do you identify and connect with 100 people who will be truly committed to your community?
Yeah, it's going to sound like a ridiculous answer, but let your freak flag fly. Whoever you are, let it be, right? I'm the champion of this, and I'm waving my flag. People are going to see it, and they're going to come on. And again, it sounds ridiculous, right, to say that, but put your stake in the ground and say, this is who I am. This is what I stand for. This is what the community is going to be about. And if you have 25 people, 100 people, great. Start with that. That's a strong community right there, right? 100 strong, believing and being all in with what you want together. Talk about it all the time. Your podcast, if you have a podcast, to your group, to your newsletter, your blog, however you're communicating with people, social media, let it be, right? Again, don't try to be Gary V or some of these other people out there, which are great, all that stuff, but be you. People are going to be attracted to that. Maybe not 20,000 people, but that's okay. But 100 strong, that's pretty good, right? Again, so just be yourself. It's cliche, right? It sounds cliche, but it's the truth. Be yourself, be authentic to what you believe and your passions, and people will follow, right? If you want to, it could be any topic that you guys are passionate about. There are people out there that are just as passionate about that topic. When it came to entrepreneurship, right? When we were building this entrepreneurship machine, I didn't know everything about startups. I didn't know everything about business, but because I was bringing those people in, people started to see me as an authority figure in that space. Again, not because I had all the knowledge, but because I was able to kind of bring that in. So to answer the question that was asked, right? Interview people. It doesn't necessarily have to be on a show. It could be live on Facebook or anything like that. Bring people in to talk about that topic, and then others are going to come and join, right? Podcasting is the best way to do it, I think, but be surrounded by those individuals within that community, and then you'll be able to grow your own.
The previous 90 seconds stands to be rewound and listened to because there's just so much there, including let your freak flag fly. Again, I think that's the very first time it's been said on any of our shows. So thank you for bringing that up. But seriously, it makes so much sense. And there's so much here because what we're talking about, as in the last C we spoke about, which is clarity, understanding your story, your message. So now we're moving right past that. Let's say now you're evolving that and you're developing that and you're getting pieces of it out there. Remember, it took me weeks and months and still ongoing to really craft and adjust your sound bites, your story, because life is fluid, right? There's always new things happening. There's always new perspective, new ideas. So don't think that what you come to the table with has to be perfect and that's what you're riding into the sunset with, right? Come up and out into your audience's view with what feels right now, with what you relate to, with how you got to where you are. Start sprinkling that out there in various ways on social, in a newsletter, in email, on videos, in a podcast, on interviews, Facebook Live, what have you. And then you'll start attracting the people you want or need in your community. The one thing I want to point out, Ever just pointed out and said, was that eventually people started seeing him as an authority. My goodness, I almost get the sweats still when I hear that, because I know so many of us feel a little uncomfortable about that position. Fine. Let's acknowledge that and become self-aware that, wait a minute, am I a leader? Do I want to be? Should I be? Do I have to be? Am I an authority? Are people looking at me and to me? That was such a big thing for me to have to acknowledge, accept, and overcome. And finally, through time and through effort and through consistency, I'm like, okay, well, I am finding my groove. There is something to be said for that. So I know that that can be a little bit of a block for people who may be finding it difficult to be a community leader,
How this is the easiest way to do it, in my opinion, right? Because you're not going out there and necessarily saying, this is how you start a business, this is how you do this is how you do that. All you are doing is bringing those people together, and you can still kind of remain behind the scenes, although I would suggest that you don't stay behind the scenes, right? You need to be the leader of your community in order for it to thrive. You can give others a platform to do their thing, but the easiest way to do it is find experts in certain topics and certain fields and bring them together. And you don't have to worry about feeling less than in the beginning. You're gonna gain so much confidence doing it over and over and over again, whether it's an interview on Facebook Live, whether it's a small event with 25 people, whatever it is, you're going to gain confidence over and over again, just because you're going to be looking around thinking, I built this, I'm doing this. And people seem to enjoy it. Again, whether it's 25 people or 25,000 people, it doesn't matter. The high is going to be the same, and you're going to get better and better at it.
I want to highlight this better and better because, I was listening to your shows, Ever, and you're a great interviewer. So I imagine that didn't happen overnight. You have to do it. You're 400 episodes in. Eventually you talk to more and more people outside of the podcast. And the thing I wanted to highlight to folks out there who necessarily don't want a podcast, but want to start engaging and start building a community, maybe through vlogging and then newsletters and then eventually through meetups and conferences. But I highly recommend you work on a skill set, which is asking questions with the intent of potentially figuring out how to help them. You don't have to come up with the solution, because that can be very frustrating for people if they're trying to talk to you and you're like, oh, here, do this. Be a good listener. Ever's a great listener. Josh is an amazing listener. Listen with the intent of potentially helping them. And if it isn't a solution or you're not confident in a solution that you can give to them, connect them with someone. Figure out how to be the super connector that say, hey, I can't help you with this. I am not the expert in this. Always be upfront and say, hey, this is not my wheelhouse. I know someone, though, who's great at this that can help you. So they will appreciate and always can connect you with that if something flourishes from that thing that you created for them. And that's why people look to Ever. That's why people look to us, because they find us as these super connectors and then associate the success that they're getting from the event, from the podcast, from the things that you're creating, because now you are the facilitator. And just keep that ear open and make sure that when you're listening to people that you really give a crap about what they're saying. Because if you don't, they're really going to be able to see, oh, this is falling on deaf ears.
I love that you said that, and that is completely true, right? We for our events specifically, people might not remember exactly what was said from stage or even who the speakers were for the most part, but they remember what they felt in that event, and they felt great because they were able to meet somebody again in the hallway or outside because of our event, and that goes a long way to having great feelings about you and your product or your business or your brand. Being able to be a connector of great ideas and great people goes a long, long way.
I want to bring up the idea of it's important to give a crap, right? We hear that a lot. And I want to, for our sake right here, I want to take it a step further and hear from you on how exactly we might intentionally do that. Because theoretically, it's like, oh, yeah, I should really give a crap about people. But what consciously has to be in place in order for that effect to happen? Off the top of my head, I think it's something about knowing full well why you are doing what you're doing, having a true goal, knowing what the outcome you want is. Does that sound reasonable?
Absolutely. From the very beginning, you have to figure out what that is, right? First of all, keep it simple. What's that one thing that your community is going to be around or stand for or be? And then I would say, again, reach out to individuals. A lot of people are afraid of rejection, so they don't reach out to people like Josh or Eric and say, hey, what do you think about this? Or, hey, can I talk to you for a couple minutes? More people are going to give people 5, 10, 15 minutes to talk to them, right? Unless you're looking for Elon Musk or something like that. And so first of all, don't be afraid to reach out to people that you think are a little bit further ahead in what you're trying to do. Pick their brain, right? Whether it's events or media or podcast, whatever it is, pick their brain. So first of all, keep it simple, ask for help, and then build something. I would say a podcast first, and then a small event. Every time somebody comes and say, I want to start an event series, I want to do this. And I'm like, okay, perfect. As of right now, in 30 days or in 3 months, we're going to host your first event. And then we reverse engineer it, put an event that's amazing for 25, 50 people easily. And so I challenge everybody that comes to me and says, I want to do this. What can I do? I'm like, let's figure it out. Let's do it in 3 months. And if you have 25 people and 2 speakers, that's a success. That's the first step into kind of growing your community. As much as we love the Facebook Lives and the podcasting and all that stuff, the magic happens, right, face to face still. Mm-hmm. I think it's always going to be the case, even now, right, where this pandemic has kept us apart. Man, I'm itching to get back into the game and meeting people face to face, because truly there still is magic there, and that's where everything happens. That where people really bond, lifelong friendships start face to face. And so I would suggest keep it simple, start something, and then create your first event within 3 months once you realize what that message is.
Love it.
Once you build an ounce of something, it's so significant that you said you have to begin to reach out to people confidently. And the way you gain that confidence is by being secure with something that you've built. For me, it was the library of podcast episodes that I had. That's what I took in under my belt here to say, hey, would you want to be on my show? And I felt confident because I had an array of good people and I was happy with the work I was doing. So whatever that looks like for you, create the environment, as I call it, create the impression before the impression. So when you reach out to somebody for anything, be a guest on my show, whatever it is, right? Partner with me, let's work together. Can you come into my community and say a few words? Whatever it is, when you ask them for that, they're going to do a quick due diligence by seeing who you are and what you are. Do they want to spend their time with you? Do they want to be associated with you? So make sure that when they click a few buttons, whether it's on your social profile where you reached out, or it's on your website or in your group, what have you. Make sure that it is as legitimate in that moment as it can be. And that's the technique that I've used, making the impression before the impression, making sure that if I'm asking someone to be part of PodMax or one of our events, I want to make sure that my social profile is really cool the first few scrolls, that I'm confident with. And when they go to the website, it's good. I'm happy with that. So that should be step number one, to begin to gain the confidence, which turns into attracting the right people.
Yeah. And it's funny, once that is done, and I love the way it was said, it just takes one small win to start this snowball effect, right? So that one small win can be a semi-famous author on your show, or this connection that you had. You just need one person to say yes, and then it's a snowball effect moving forward. Once the first person says yes, then they're all in. They start coming in, and again, we started with small interview show. Now we're hosting decent sized names on our stage because of it. And so, yeah, right away, do it, push forward, don't give up.
Case in point, if you haven't yet heard, our keynote spot for PodMax Global coming up in a few weeks is James Orsini. We're all very happy about this. He's a big get, a great guy, and we're very proud of that, to bring him into our mix. He's the right-hand man of Gary Vee, right? So, and so many other credits. So we're like, yes, this is great. And then we started dissecting how it happened. Of course, specifically, our teammate Lisa had a connection and reached out and nurtured it over time. We already spoke about this on our previous show, so you could go back to On Air Brands' last podcast episode and hear the story of how we made that happen. But the further point is, not only did he say an easy yes, he'll be our keynote for the event, but also over the past days since then, we noticed, my goodness, he is sharing on his own volition. He's sharing the posts we're making, promoting it and saying, hey, look who our keynote is. He's sharing it wide. We saw he shared it on Instagram, on his story. We saw he shared it on LinkedIn, all over the place. And we're like, wow. So for that to happen is just a further testament to the power of community. And now he's taking ownership of it, right? So apparently we've successfully created the impression that he's like, oh, I'll be associated with that. And then the community expands.
Yeah. And like you said, I want to highlight, that's not overnight, folks.
Yeah.
So don't expect that you're going to push something out there. You're going to start a podcast or a blog or whatever it is, and instantly, boom, you've got Gary Vee's right-hand man next to you, or, you got Ever on your show. Like, these things have to happen over time. You have to nurture it and be patient. No one's planting a seed and then just staring at the pot and like, where are you, plant? You got to come back and you got to continue to give it love. And that's what happens. And that's how we have, gained relative success over time. This didn't happen overnight. So keep that in mind, so that you're not applying so much pressure on yourself that, like, oh man, why isn't this happening? It's been a whole year. Well, Gary Vee isn't where he is because he did it for a year or two. That guy's been grinding for decades, and now we're noticing it.
So with that, Ever, you have...
and it's funny.
Go ahead. All you.
No, go ahead.
No, you. After you.
I was going to say, Eric, to kind of point out to what you're talking about, because we're talking about podcasts and events, we'll kind of stay in that same vein. You don't need to reach out to the Gary Vees and all that stuff, although every once in a while that's great. But especially in the beginning, reach out to your local business owner, right? Somebody that the community knows well, or at least the company, and reach out to them and say, hey, can you come on my show, or can you speak at my local event here that's down the street? And then eventually it continues to grow, right? It doesn't have to be complicated. You don't have to look at what you guys are doing and say, oh, shoot, how do I even get there? Start small. Right. And if it's you on stage by yourself, that's okay too.
Yeah.
You have what's your unique value proposition, right? What do you know the best? Share that with people that I'm sure that want to hear that and be able to find those people. But it just takes one little tweak in the message, in the reaching out to people, to start that that journey down to being able to get the names that you want on your podcast or on your stage.
Should the person listening who wants to begin or grow their community, should they go down one path all in, or should they sprinkle it? Should they do the Facebook group, the newsletter, the podcast, and the co-working space? No, I'm kidding. But should they? Do we need the co-working space?
It helps. And it's fun. But no, I would even take a step back and say, do what you're comfortable with, right? If you're not good on Instagram or on Snapchat or some of these other crazy things that are out there, you're not going to do it, and you're not going to do it well. You're not going to do it consistently. So whatever you are comfortable with, right? For us, Facebook, Twitter, our newsletter, and our podcast, right? I focus on those 4 things. Snapchat and some of these other things that are continuing to grow. Awesome. People are making a killing off of that stuff. I don't care. It's not something that interests me. And my community I can find within those 4 things. And so, yeah, I would say there's no all one in roadmap. It's going to be different for each individual person. So take a step back and say, first of all, what am I good at? What can I commit myself to? Whether it's again, writing newsletters or your podcast or whatever it is, and then just be all in and be consistent with it. I've noticed that we go up and down with my consistency, right? There are times when I take a few weeks off and I don't do anything on social media or my newsletter or even my show. And, it starts to kind of slow down a little bit. But then when I'm all in, when I'm consistent, it's a steady climb, which is fantastic, which is the way it's supposed to be. So pick 2, 3 platforms, different things that you can do, and then go all in there. Don't follow me. Don't follow the way you guys have done it. Figure out how you can do it, and then do it well.
Yeah.
There's an interesting element that you brought up, what started your podcast journey, which was after you sold your company, you then were looking for something to do, which in your words means you weren't money motivated, which probably wonderfully played to your advantage. So many business people and entrepreneurs are extremely money motivated. Sometimes,
and there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. Yeah.
Oh, exactly. I'm going to say the majority are probably money motivated out of desperate need and desperation, which I'm just talking out loud here. I wonder if there's a way, because nobody likes desperate or desperation, but if you are like money motivated, not maybe money motivated, but like money required, like, my goodness, I need to make money now, versus the fact that you came to the table without any sense of that and was able to give it the time and the patience. How do we,
yeah, that's a tough one. And that's a great
right?
question.
Yeah.
A couple different things you can do. Work for someone. Have a full-time job while you're building your side gig, so that your side gig or this community that you're trying to build isn't motivated by money, especially right away, because it won't work. People are going to be able to feel that desperation in you. And, this 25-year-old guy that's coming to me that's building a community that is going to wants to be my business coach or my life coach, not so much. Right? What experience do you have for the most part? Great. Kill it. Go and do your thing. But day one, he's trying to sell me $100 course on how to live my life or how to, live a blessed life. Not so much. Gain a little bit of experience, get a full-time job while you build your community and adding value. And again, if you don't have a sellable talent for the most part, everybody does. But if you can't figure it out, bring other people in that do and associate yourself with them. Have affiliate relationships with those people that are selling books or courses until you figure it out on your own, and then you can go from there. But if you need to feed your family and you need to figure out how to do it, all I would say is add as much value as you possibly can before you start asking for money, before you try to sell them on anything. Right? Your boy Gary Vee says, what is it? Hook, punch, or something like that, right? His book,
jab, right hook.
Yeah. Give, and then ask. Give. Perfect. That's how you should think about your community. We try to give as much as we can. Every once in a while, we ask for them to buy tickets to our shows or our retreats or anything else that we're doing. And it's been working well for us.
I want to highlight some of the things that was talked about during this masterclass, and then we'll land this bird because we're coming up to the hour. We're going to spill a little bit over. That's how amazing these conversations. We could literally go on for another hour or two. Yep. Seriously, it's just so good. Ever's amazing. But I wanted to highlight something that you just said, where if you're not prepared, ready, or confident to build your own community, look at someone that you admire. Find a group. Find a person that is doing what you want to do and help them do it. You'll learn a ton by watching behind the scenes how things are dissected, built, created together. How are they doing it all firsthand, getting your hands dirty with someone by helping them. I liken it to, say, you're on this boat, you're on a raft, and you're trying to get to an island. All of a sudden, this big yacht, this huge, massive boat comes along. You can literally just say, hey, see ya. This, thank you. I'll ride the wake. Or you can say, hey, I'll jump on your boat and I'll help you guys get to wherever it is you're going. And that's okay. That's okay to work for someone and figure it out and learn a ton while you're on there. So I just wanted to highlight that because Ever put it so eloquently as well. But then also for those of you who love hearing this stuff and seeing the bowl full of food and like, okay, how did you create that? How did you mix that? We want to give you some actionable steps to building a community, and you guys can add to this or subtract. So number one, the thread is constant, right? You guys understand being consistent with your content, putting it out there all the time. I liken this to like the safari. If there's a water hole and it's discovered by some animals, eventually they're going to be drinking from it, and then more will continue to gather if the water is flowing consistently. If it dries up, they're going to go away. So you have to figure out, how do I continue this auger and flow so that people will consistently come and feed off of it. So then also you want to make sure that when you build a community, whether it's on Facebook or a podcast or blogging, answer questions to help them, right? Offer value in their lives or in their business, but at the same time, do not forget to ask questions. Ask. And people will appreciate you for that. And then also, this is a given, and we always know, engage, and always engage. So just these are very simple, quick hits that you can, and I'll put it into the comments, but yeah, there's so many different ways, and Ever's a perfect example of, one of the many ways that you can build a community. There isn't a one size fits all. So that's all I wanted to add and make sure that people took away from this whole masterclass based on community.
You speak about consistency. I'll say, as we've said in the past, how do you get consistent? How do you make sure that you are being consistent? For me, it's by redefining and re-acknowledging the reason you're doing all of it to begin with. When you are so clear on why you are getting out of bed in the morning and what your end result is, short-term, medium-term, long-term, why in the world am I doing this? What is the reason? When you have that, you're going to be able to be more consistent because you're motivated and inspired by that drive and that passion.
Awesome. Hey, Ever, anything you want to add? But also there's a question here from our man, Jake, who we love. He asks, where did Outlier come from? There you go.
Yeah, easy. Malcolm Gladwell, Outliers, that book.
Say no more, yeah.
As entrepreneurs, right? So I kind of started there, but as I started to kind of figure out what the word meant and how it applied to what we were trying to do, everybody and their mother thinks that they're an outlier, no matter what they're doing, but specifically entrepreneurs, right? We all think we're a little bit different than everybody else, right? Because we don't want to live the 9-to-5 life. We don't want to do this. We don't want to do that. Our ideas are outliers. And so Outlier community made sense, and we've kind of run with it since then. But yeah, it all started because of Malcolm Gladwell.
Yet while we feel, each and every one of us, entrepreneur or not, feel different in some sense, are we all the same?
No. Are we all the same? No, that's what's the beautiful part about all this. To kind of add to it, when people say, and I know that they mean well when the people say, "Hey, I don't see color when it comes to race." Why? Color's beautiful. Yes, I'm brown. It's okay. Yes, you're white. It's okay. Let's embrace that. And so we're all different, and it's okay to be all different. That's what makes a beautiful, awesome community, right? Because there are things that I know that you don't, and vice versa. And that's how we're going to grow. And so don't be that guy that says, oh, I don't see color. Again, I understand what they mean by that, but color's beautiful. Let your freak flag fly. It's going to be great. And, to kind of end on, maybe not end, it's your show, but
go for it.
Add to some of the things that you guys were saying, and which is great. Some of the things that I would highlight, again, keep it simple. Build ambassadors as well, right? Who are the people that like you before you were famous, before you knew what you were doing? Ask them for help, right? Hey, come to my events for free, right? You want people at your events. Come to my events for free, those handful of ambassadors. Ask them, who do I need to be talking to in order to kind of do this next? Because everybody knows somebody that can help. And so take advantage of your ambassadors. They're there to help. I'd like to think that I'm an ambassador to a few different entrepreneurs and different shows. And I do what I can to help them grow, help them with connections, help them with anything that they need. People want to be able to help you as well. And so don't be afraid to ask for help. And so keeping it simple, building your little group of ambassadors, and then not to kind of kill this, but truly be yourself by letting your freak flag fly.
Ever, you're really speaking our language, because in two master classes ahead, we are all about collaboration. And I think that that's also what we're talking about, how you connect and meet and collaborate with the right people, including those that are ambassadors. I want to just say, I'll keep it anonymous for the moment. I got a private message here that I'm looking at from a female on our team. It's the only info I'll give. She wrote, am I allowed to have a man crush on Ever too? Wait a minute. She's saying two. I think she's, oh, I get it now. No, nice. She also wants the man crush. So she wrote, so good. And then it was said, best one yet.
Oh, wow. Very cool.
It was great. I'm glad. Real-time feedback.
Love it. Credit you for that, brother.
Do you have a limit ever on how many man crushes people can have?
No, as many as you want, right? I mean, we all have them. Come on, let's do this.
All right. What do you say?
And we'll go from there. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. So, folks, you heard it here. You heard it from a man who's built an amazing, loving, and amazing community to be a part of. Please look for him. How can they reach you, brother?
Yeah, Outlier HQ on Instagram, Twitter, social media. You can go to our website, outlierhq.com. for our podcasts and newsletters. You can go to outlierpodfest.com for our events.
I love it. I love it, folks. And also keep in mind, if you do want to chat with Ever and you want to chat with us, we do have PodMax Global coming May 22nd, and we're all going to be there. We're all going to be in the room. We're going to be there with James Orsini from Sasha Group. We're going to be there with Ever from Outlier, and there's going to be opportunities for you to jump in the mix, get in front of the mic, and tell your story to their community, to the Outlier community, to the Sasha Group, VaynerX community. So there's going to be a really cool opportunity for all of us to build and grow and jump on the boat together, because we all want to go somewhere, and we all want to know and trust and love each other, because that's how we grow. That's how we all sort of expand, not working in silos, working on an island by yourself, but together we build, and everything just flourishes through community. So, folks, just want to thank everyone for watching and engaging and being a part of the show and being part of the masterclass, really. So any last words from you guys?
Just this.
Love it. Love it.
Family first.
Right there.
Then community.
My kids, for a reason, right?
That's
all right.
Awesome. I love it, guys.
Thank you.
Love you guys.
Thank you.